why integrity matters.
Take us back to the days before September 11th. You were in the field office in Minneapolis, St. Paul. What were you trying to tell your superiors?
Well, it wasn't me personally. There were two agents who had been called by whistleblowers at a flight school in Eagan, Minnesota. And essentially, there were all these facts, but essentially, they had spotted the most unusual student that they had ever encountered. One of the things was he had come in with cash. He had no private pilot's license. His name was Zacharias Moussaoui.
Right.
And so these two flight instructors took it on themselves against the wishes of their employer, because they were essentially giving information about a customer, very not kosher. They called the FBI, and the FBI, just a little bit of serendipity, landed on a pilot, former Navy pilot who had military intelligence background, ran out there within just a short time, just really hours, interviewed other pilots, really put this down in a very concrete, factual form, sent leads to Europe, to France, to Great Britain, and now this happened on August 16th, they were so worried they took this immigrant, because his visa had lapsed, into INS custody on August 16th, got the call, put him into custody, then waited a little bit for some information to materialize, sent it to headquarters so that they could proceed to get an emergency search of his personal effects and laptop. And what happened was that was stalled. On August 23rd, however, really short time period, this information made its way to the Director of Central Intelligence, the head of 16 Intelligence, which was George Tenet. He was briefed with a PowerPoint entitled Fundamentalist Learns to Fly on August 23rd, 2001.
Do you believe Moussaoui was involved in 9/11?
Well, it's proven. He's been convicted. And what it is if you would have been able to do the search, you would have found that there are fingerprints and receipts for money that came from the masterminds, Ramzi bin al-Shibh. And actually another guy too. He's connected to the meeting in Kuala Lumpur. So yes, he is directly connected to the hijackers.
You were on the cover of Time magazine. Now, do you believe that the American government was complicit in the murder of innocent Americans in 9/11?
Well, though that's a loaded term, of course, complicit, because
what do you believe about that?
When you say complicit, of course, you know what I'm thinking? I worked mafia cases in New York in the 80s, and of course I think of John Gotti, conspiracies like that. But what you do have is failures and lapses. You certainly have a lot in the 9/11 Commission says that
failures and lapses.
Right. The 9/11 Commission characterized it as a failure to appreciate and a failure to connect the dots. I think that
a lot of the people here believe that the government helped murder innocent Americans. Do you share their belief, the belief of the people at this convention?
Well, of course, anytime you get a group together, I don't care what group it is.
So do you believe it or not?
Do I believe what?
Do you believe that the American government helped kill innocent Americans?
Well, you're kind of trying to almost put me on an interrogation.
Let me
you know what? You remind me of when I was an FBI agent.
Let me do
and
it
I was
way.
trying. No, I can explain though. If you just let me explain.
Do you share the beliefs of those here who believe
Well,
that the American government was complicit in the slaughter of American citizens?
Okay. I am not going to choose your term complicit, because that, to me, denotes something completely different. What I believe is that the full truth, and actually the 9/11 commissioners now say this too, is not known. Absolutely. The NORAD call out, for instance, is extremely murky. There have been many, our own Minnesota senator at the time, Dayton, wrote a piece about how these timelines don't fit. So there are parts of this that certainly need further explaining. And I think it's very normal for people when information is withheld. I've been privy during my 24 years career in the FBI, for instance, when Ashcroft refused to tell people about the FBI is going to libraries to get records. When he did this, it gives rise to people to believe the worst, that perhaps the FBI was improperly collecting information. So what I believe is that there were really serious, some very serious lapses. My memo, my 12-page memo, actually gave rise to a 2.5-year investigation. The Inspector General for the Department of Justice, based on the push that was my memo, investigated, it's about 400 to 500 page long document that shows 3 different major ways that the FBI failed. and one of them was the 2 hijackers. I didn't even know about that when I wrote the memo. So certainly, if you're asking me, is there a lot of information, and are there a lot of things and lapses, intertwined mistakes, all these types of things that really account for why the United States was not able to stop or prevent or reduce 9/11? Yes, I totally am that way. I think the 9/11 commissioners believe that too.
Do you believe there was some kind of a conspiracy to cover up some government involvement
Well,
in 9/11?
okay, now we're going back to my memo. You should
can
pull.
you just answer
now,
the question? I'm sorry.
You should actually pull up my memo, because in my memo, in the first or second line, I said it is wrong to puff, shade, skew, massage, tailor, or firm up statements of fact.
Do you believe there was a conspiracy to cover up some involvement in 9/11 on the part of the
And
government?
what I said is these terms are all kind of lighter forms of saying cover up. That's
So you
exactly.
believe there was a cover up.
Listen, it's not a question of belief. I was actually inside the FBI, and after 9/11, it wasn't just the FBI either. No one really had a big incentive to tell the full and complete truth. When I just mentioned about George Tenet being briefed on August 23rd, he didn't go to the press. When you folks were interviewing Condi Rice or George Tenet or even President Bush about the presidential brief, did they tell you? Did anyone in the administration voluntarily tell you about the presidential brief? Did they tell you, George Tenet tell you that he was briefed on the Moussaoui case? Okay, and those are just little examples. And so what I am privy to is that there was not a lot of forthcoming truth after 9/11 for a lot of reasons. It's human nature not to want to tell the full, especially when you have lapses, and it's embarrassing.
There are lapses in all these things.
That's right.
What is the motivation on the part of elected government officials and their representatives in office to cover up?
What is the motivation? Well, in a bureaucracy, if you think, I use the priest pedophile cover up oftentimes, because priests are known to be good people. It's not because anyone's bad. But when a bad mistake occurs, there's a certain amount of, oftentimes, you want to put the best spin on it for the public, because your goal is, in the FBI, it's law enforcement. It's wanting to prevent terrorism. With the priests, for instance, it's wanting to keep people's religious faith. So if you have something that seems in your head the full truth will interfere with your goal, many times people will not tell the full truth. And that's what I teach ethics. So I try.
Your basic thing is you're saying that sir, we're trying to do this. We have this set up, so if you could back off a little bit. Thank you.
I'd actually appreciate, because this is
I don't care if they can just get out of our shop.
And the thing is, I have never in my life been interviewed like I was a criminal. I have to say, this is quite an aggressive interview. I used to actually, sometimes in media, we used to practice where you had to be a public official or something, because I was our media coordinator. I've never been attacked this way in my life.
Oh, I'm not attacking you.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get at what you believe, and it seems
but
to be.
It
seems to be a little
okay,
unclear.
but
you're at your core belief, you think there were lapses. I get that.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. And
do you think there were any more than lapses here? That's what I don't
okay,
quite understand.
when something wrongdoing occurs, okay, there's a whole continuum. And the lightest form of a wrongdoing is something called negligence. And if you are negligent in just a real mistake, inadvertent mistake, certainly you can be sued. You can commit a tort. You could have rear-ended somebody.
On the one hand, you've got negligence.
On one hand, you have and on the other hand, you have something. For instance, if it was a murder, the other end of it would be.
So where's the
okay,
government
then.
in this?
Okay,
in this
hold on,
particular-
sir.